where Mary Lizars was born. And this is a picture of it. And under it, it says, Turner's house in Maiden Lane.
Oh, cool.
How about that?
So it's.
I bought it because I recognized the house, and then
Wait a second. What
So
did you say?
Turner had lived in the house that your distant relative used to live in.
Yeah.
And Mary
grew
Lizar
up-
was. That's not your is that your grandmother?
That Mary Lizars was my grandmother's mother.
Your grandmother's mother lived
I
in
like
the same
to
house
say
that
because
Turner.
it makes it feel closer that it's my grandmother. I knew my grandmother,
Yeah.
and her mother lived in the house.
By the time I
It, you know, the
Turner had
Turners.
had it prior to that?
Yes,
Prior to
I
that.
mean,
I think
he's,
it was like one
he's,
generation
yes,
before.
yes, and he wasn't there a terribly long time, but I think he was there when he was a child. I read a little bit about it. I want to see the
Right.
movie. Well, then Alfred, whose three brothers, Alfred's three brothers, came to Denver, and that's what we're all related to, these three brothers and their children and so forth. But anyway, Alfred, after he was on that, he was on a couple of ships, and then he was on the maiden voyage of this ship, which is called the Fantome. And the Fantome was a group of ships that the British commissioned, and he was on the maiden voyage. They commissioned to capture the slaver ships. And the British were against slavery by that time. This was 1841. And they were against slavery, and so they commissioned these ships. And so Alfred was on this beautiful little ship, I think.
So it's built for speed.
Wow.
It was built for speed.
Yeah.
And this is a picture where it is chasing a slaver. And a slaver ship. And this slaver ship had outrun a couple of other ships. And you can read about it in the old newspapers. And but it didn't outrun this little Fantome, and it captured it, and there were, I think, 290 or something slaves.
What do they do with the slaves?
And
once they-
most of them, they bring them back, and most of them were children under 7, because they didn't take up much room.
But where did they take them? They took them
They
back.
took them, yes. Now, he was not on the ship at that time.
Right.
I mean, he was not on the ship.
They returned
When
them.
when that happened, right?
When that happened, when this was one of the very famous captures, and they would take them back to
England? Or
no, they wouldn't take
Take
them
them
back
back
to
to
India. They take
Africa?
them back to Africa. Now, I mean, I don't know what they did when they got to Africa. Or, I mean, the Africans were selling their own people, but the British were against slavery, and this was in we didn't have a civil war until 1865 around, and this was in 1841, and already the British were getting a fleet of people to get those slavers. So Alfred got on the ship, and we have these letters, and he was aboard ship, and we have the log for that. He was aboard ship when they captured a frigate, a French frigate, which was a slaver, but there weren't any slaves on it. But it was a slaver ship, and they took it into Ghana, and they weren't exactly pirates, but they were sort of like pirates, capturing these other ships. And, but they were slave ships. I was interested to know that. I didn't know that they were, I just thought, well, they're going around being pirates and, they were in war with French or something. But anyway, they captured the ship off of the coast of, off the Canary Islands, and they took the ship into Ghana, and it was there that they described that Alfred's brother wrote the letters saying that they'd heard from Alfred, and he'd seen blacks and different kinds of birds and animals and so forth in Africa. And then they sailed down, all the way down to the Cape of Good Hope and Alfred jumped ship, and we don't know what happened. So, that was the ship that he was on, and it became, and he was on two rather famous ships. And these are wonderful, I'm going to have those framed, but I haven't done it yet.
Understandable, yeah. And are we going to try and find out what happened to Alfred?
And so I wrote to the Hornsey. He was living, his family was, that family was in Crouch End, and their father was a coach, has a stable there in 3 acres, and he was a coachman, a gentleman's coachman, had a stable. I think he rented horses out to, how they, a coach would come in and they need fresh horses, and then I think that's what they did, and then, but he also was a coachman to a gentleman, I don't know who. Anyway, where was it?
That's something.
So we're gonna try the
Hornsey Society, I wrote them. I belong to the Hornsey